have to realize that it's appropriate that we have a finite period on this planet. But we, in addition to just making it as long as possible, we want to have it be the best quality as possible. And I agree with what others have said about the general direction of diet that has been described is clearly well established, based on strong evidence. And I think as Pamela says, we need to focus on the big picture where there's strong agreement. There's always going to be some disagreements about some of the details, maybe not always, but at least for quite a while, I'm sure there will be. And that's where we tend to focus our discussion, but we shouldn't lose sight of the commonality. It naturally is, there's no interest in talking with each other about the things where we agree because we don't learn anything. It's boring. It's where we disagree. It's more interesting, and it stimulates science and advancement. And there are lots of details we don't know. Not all vegetables, it's very possible that not all vegetables are healthy, even whole vegetables. Because those, number one, have been bred to be, none of them are natural, the things we eat, except wild blueberries and a few other things. They've all been distorted to be most attractive to our taste and yield and things like that. So it's not automatic that everything is healthy. And the other thing is that David is quite right that we can't forget smoking, physical activity, and a lot of those do converge to in terms of overweight being a very big risk factor. And then there's some things on your list like multiple sclerosis. We are learning now that there's almost surely a viral component to that, but now very strong evidence that inadequate vitamin D is part of the picture of the etiology of multiple sclerosis as well. So a diet isn't going to cure everything, but it does, as David said, put the odds strongly in our favor. We had a paper just published this past week looking at how much healthy life expectancy we could gain by adopting that simple set of healthy behaviors. We had earlier published that we could add 10 years to our life by that simple set of behaviors, where the causality is well established, I think, through multiple kinds of studies, in particular, not smoking, being physically active, maintaining a healthy body weight, and adopting a healthy diet. What we just published in the past few days was these added 10 years are all healthy 10 years. It's not that we're just headed toward more years in a nursing home or something like that with dementia. And so it does seem that there is a huge opportunity for putting the odds of having healthier years in our favor. But any one of us could have something really bad happen to us next week. We could be diagnosed with a lymphoma that we don't know how to prevent yet and things like that. So there's still a lot to learn. But with what we have in hand, as Pam says, this is better than any medicine on the shelf.
A couple of things. I think it's great that we're talking about, Dr. Campbell, you're the father of holism in our movement, right? Whole food diets. But there's a bigger whole, and you were talking about it last night, the importance of rest and water and exercise and that sort of thing. So talking about the whole lifestyle picture, because you can watch every morsel you put in your mouth, and if you spend your life sitting, you're going to have problems. You probably aren't going to be living to an old age independently if you do that. So the first thing is I think this focus on holism with this panel is maybe taking things to another level. When it comes to risk, I don't think we can promise anybody anything, but people ask me all the time, so if I do this, if I do everything you're talking about, is this a guarantee that I'm not going to get sick? It's not. But I teach through analogies, so I tell people, I want you to think about your health like driving a car. Okay, I drive a car, keep it in good working order, I have insurance, I fasten my seatbelt, I observe the speed limit laws almost all the time, and I watch, I'm very careful, I don't drive when the conditions are terrible, and I don't drink and drive and do stupid things like that. Now, having said that, I could, on my way home from the airport on Sunday, get hit by a bus, the proverbial bus. There's nothing you can do about that. The problem is if you get so worried about the bus, which is not likely to happen, You don't pay attention to the things that are most likely to happen, which is degenerative disease, and that's where the habits that we're talking about here become so important. So I don't think we have to give people a guarantee. I think we have to put the promise that we're making in perspective that way, and it's the best shot you have. It isn't perfect, but it's the best shot you have, and I don't think if anybody really understood the statistics like the group of us do, that they would opt to do anything else, because from a statistical standpoint, it's your best shot of living to old age independently, not in the home.
So I like mnemonics, so I always give my patients the deep mnemonic: diet, environment, activity, and psychology. Those are the areas that you can do something about, and like you said, if you can shift the odds to be dramatically in your favor, people say, well, you know, what if I get old and get hit by a bus? My answer is, what if you get old and you don't get hit by a bus?
And just to comment at the confluence of what you said, Walter, and what you said, Pam, I think the value proposition, Steve, isn't just dialing down the risk of something bad happening at some point in the future. Yeah, you can do that, shift the odds massively in your favor. But per this paper you just published, Walter, and when is there a week you haven't just published a paper? Let's be honest about it. I mean, it's really annoying. We're not just talking about adding years to life. We're talking about adding life to years. And if every day you live between now and that unknown future is filled with vital energy, and you can seize the day, that's the prize. Doesn't get any better than that, right? Nobody knows about tomorrow, but if you can live today fully, that's the price.
Okay, so now my marketing business mind is working. And one of the things that I think has happened in our culture is that old age doesn't seem very attractive to most people. I've actually had people say, I don't want to live to be 90. Oh my gosh, until they're 88 and sick, and then they definitely want to live to be 90. I never had anybody in my office, no matter how old they are, that didn't want to live some more, right? But one of the things that I think we could do from a marketing standpoint is show people what healthy old age looks like. Look at Dr. Campbell, look at Dr. Esselstyn, right? What great role models. Yeah? Yeah, Dr. Goldhamer's just said, are you calling them old? Well, but they're older than me, and I'm understanding how to love people who are older than me now that I'm this age, right? But anyway, I think that would be such a great way to show people what you have to look forward to. I mean, if you look at people, no wonder people don't want to get old. They see family members ending up in memory care and nursing homes. I don't want to do that either. But if you show me a way that I could be productive and still living in my own home and working every day and doing what I want to do when I'm 97, I want to sign up for that, and most people, I think, actually do.
I'm glad I'm sitting next to someone who's interested in marketing, because I quite agree that we've been a failure in that area. And I spend a lot of my time, a good bit of my time, working with the Culinary Institute of America for the last 15 years, because it's not going to be an easy sell to telling people what they shouldn't eat. And it's much better to be able to show them, allow them to taste, enjoy food that is really good tasting and pleasant. And so I think we want to be able to market something that is really aspirational, something people want. And we have really a triple win here. It's good for you, good for the planet, and it also tastes really wonderful. And that's why chefs and that whole world those are people we really do need to get on our side. We're not going to sell deprivation. That's a hard sell, even though you could make a statistical case for it. But I think we can sell this in a very positive way. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on a little bit more, Pamela, on the best way to do that.
I think one of the most important things you said is we're not going to sell deprivation. We have to sell how spectacular it is, what a great life you can have, and the fact the food is delicious, and that it's easy to do, and it's inexpensive to do. And this is sometimes an unpopular thought, but I always put it out there anyway, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Because when people think that, I always tell people, I did not start a company called I Want to Be Like Pam. I'm not perfect, by the way, but it's called Wellness Forum Health. And the reason for that is that, I think we have to, I said this last night, we have to have a bigger tent to invite more people in and meet them where they are and start them on a progress toward a better goal, and be a little bit more tolerant of people not making great big leaps. Some of them are ready to do it, and they're fun to help. And some of them are not so ready to do it, and they're also fun to help, but they have to be helped in a different way. So I think part of it is making sure that our message isn't so difficult for people to embrace. I'll tell you something interesting. I've done a lot of reading over the last few years about the science of change, because that's as important, really, as what it is the fact that we're asking people to change and what we're asking them to do. The two biggest reasons why people do something is, first of all, they think it will benefit them. My gosh, we've got that covered, don't we? Really. But the second one, and it's just as important, they can see themselves doing it. And I think that's where we have to really work on our message. That's where we have to really work on meeting people where they are. Not only is this the best thing ever for your health, but we promise you can do it or your money back. Okay, we promise you'll be able to do it. And those kinds of, I think that is an area we could work on too, is making people feel this is doable by anybody. Let us show you how.